Welcome everyone to another video on CSS Grid. Today we are going to continue filling our form, our model, sorry, and exploring a little bit what you can do with the implicit grid and explicit grid using the -1 trick and stuff. So, in our case, what we want is, for instance, we want to add a button that's going to say login, and by default add a new row, but we want it to be on the right side. So we can go here, body, modal, and button. And what you can do is you can just say grid column, and now it's like grid column start, grid column end. So you can just say it spans 1 as a start, so it will take 1 cell, and it needs to finish at -1. This works because we are explicitly defining all of the columns, so we can access, like, the last column track is the -1. This wouldn't work in rows. If we wanted to align something at the end, it wouldn't work this way. But I'll show you just how you would do it later on. So we have our login page, a login button. Maybe we want to add some padding. There we go. Nice and sharp. Now if we can go here and say we also want people to be able to register, for instance, you just say register, and what you'll see is actually that second H1 is going to span 2 columns as well, but there's not really enough space here because the login is taking that part, so it's going to create a new row and span on those 2 columns here. So it's exactly what we want. So we can go here, for instance, and say, okay, so if you want to register, you can confirm password, for instance, and maybe we want you to give us your email, some reason, and maybe we want a button that will say register. All right, so as you can see, every input spans 2 columns, then another input, then buttons go on the right side, and you can see our buttons are very, very, very big now. So we have 2 ways of dealing with this. One of them is to just align self to the end. Yeah, sure. Justify self. So align would be the vertical, and justify is always horizontal. So you could use this, but it's not really great because, as you can see, login is smaller than register. You want maybe your primary button to be the same size and stuff. So you don't want to do something like this. What you might want to do is to change your grid template columns, for instance, to something like min content, and you'll see now that if I go back here, your last column is going to take as much space as the minimum required width for that column. So register here with the padding is taking this exact same space, and login is going to be centered with the same width. So that's one of the solution. You can also go in and say, for instance, because now we don't have any control on the width of that min content, except maybe for the number of letters or whatever. But you still want, for instance, to say width is equal to 600 pixels, because that's what we had before. And maybe you want to just add a new column that's going to be widening. But now you can see we have a problem because we try to put our buttons at the end, and all of our other elements just like span 2. And that's where the -1 trick comes in, because now it's really easy to just say, if you have an H1, it comes from 1 to -1, and here goes again, and you can see we now have one column, which is 300 pixel, one which is variable and takes whatever is remaining as a space, and one which is just the minimum width required. So there we go. We have our model up and ready, and we're going to use this later on. In the next video, we are going to see how you can define basic width, basic height, for instance, of your implicit rows. So for instance, you want your rows not to be automatic, but to be 500 pixel, 200 pixel, maybe a pattern or something. And we're going to see this in the next video. I hope to see you there. Cheers.